Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 7 of UXR Conversations. Before we get started and introduce our guest for today, just wanted to say something quick. I started this whole thing, this whole little venture, because of this global pandemic we're in. We're in mid-April 2020. COVID-19 is happening. I'm on parental leave currently. I was feeling very disconnected from our incredible professional community of UX research, research ops, and design, and everyone else who's in this field. And I was just craving that connection and conversations. And I felt like I was having countless one-on-one conversations with people about so many important topics in our field. And I just wanted to take those conversations to the public sphere, share some thoughts, hopefully inspire people, hopefully educate, hopefully, at the very least, have some fun and bring some fun and joy to other people. And so I have 2 requests for you today before we get started. Number one, if you have anything you want to talk about and you want to come on to this show and have a conversation about a UX research or research ops or UX design or any UX related topic, email me, DM me on Twitter, send me a message on LinkedIn. I'd really love to talk. It does not matter what your role is, what stage you're at. I just want to have meaningful conversations with people and expand our community and broaden our horizons and share thoughts with everyone. The second thing is, if you are at all enjoying these conversations, please subscribe on my YouTube channel and follow along. There's a lot more coming and going to put out a lot of hopefully interesting and fun content. But today is all about reinventing yourself. And to talk about that with me today is Annie York. Hello, Annie.
Hello. Nice to be
Welcome.
here. Thank you so much. I'm really excited.
Yeah, for sure. Welcome. Thank you so much for doing this. Welcome to whatever this thing is. How's your evening going so far?
It's going well. I'm in Atlanta, so it is just past 10. My doggie is asleep. I'm surprised she's not in my lap. If she comes and jumps up, then I will introduce her. But yeah, doing good.
I was at a conference in Atlanta and I just loved every minute. The food was incredible.
Yeah.
And I know it's a chain, so like it's not cool, but I went to Gus's like a bunch of times for fried chicken. And also what I believe is an incredible American invention, fried pickles.
Amazing. Thank you. My dad called me the pickle queen growing up. I love pickles so much. So
oh my. So to whoever's watching, I'm Noam Siegel. I'm Director of User Research at Wellfront and currently full-time parent. And with us today is Annie York, UX Research Ops at Cabbage, but not when you got started, which is what we will be talking about. If you have any questions for us or comments, we would love to hear from you. Please send us whatever you have on YouTube, preferably. But I think we should be able to see comments on Facebook and Twitter as well. So we're talking about reinventing yourself. And I wanted to ask you something to get started. My daughter just told us what she wants to be when she'll be older. And she said she wants to be a firefighter.
Oh, wow.
She's considering other options like an astronaut, which, you know, we all, I think, at some point talked about, and maybe an artist, like her aunt. But right now, firefighter is number one. Do you remember what you wanted to be when you were younger?
Oh, yeah. I wanted to be a famous singer.
You did?
Oh, yeah. I've always loved entertaining and stuff. There's a funny story. My mom and my aunt were driving in the car, and I was in the back just blah, 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 talking to myself. And she turns to my mom and she goes, "Dee Dee, does she ever shut up?" And I later pursued a career in theater. That's what I got my degree in. So I kind of stayed in the artistic realm, but yeah.
So do you sing to this day, or is that no longer part of your repertoire?
Well, one of the reasons why I stopped pursuing that or no longer wanted to is I realized I can't sing very well. So that kind of killed that. But I mean, I'm really good in a chorus, and my go-to karaoke song is Bohemian Rhapsody. So I can get down, but maybe not to the professional level.
Okay. So you started your professional career with a bachelor's degree in theater.
Yeah.
And then working as a professional actress for several years.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a bit about what led you down that path initially. Why theater? Why acting?
Yeah. I've always loved, well, when I discovered it in high school, and I've always loved characters and people and understanding who someone is and what motivates them. I found a lot of power in what theater can do for someone's life. I know that it certainly speaks to me and makes me think about things that maybe I haven't thought about before. So like the bigger implications of the craft, I think, are really amazing. Also, so I have an older brother, and we love each other, but he really picked on me a lot when I was a kid. And theater was the one thing that he couldn't do. And so I felt like, finally, this is my moment to stand out. And but from the love of high school, went into college, and then those beliefs of wanting to make an impact on the world in my little way deepened, and I just went for it.
What was your favorite role as an actress?
Well, I've got two answers. My favorite, just because it was classic and challenging, was I played Juliet in Romeo and Juliet for 2 years at the Atlanta Shakespeare Theater. And that was amazing. Yeah, I think that's a lot of people's dreams to do that role. And I got to do it. And it was very hard, but very rewarding. My favorite role that I've ever played was I played a character in a play called Five Lesbians Eating a Quiche. I'm a company member with Weird Sisters Theater Company here in Atlanta, and it was one of the first productions that they did, maybe like the second or third, and it was amazing. And at one point, I had to eat a quiche in a very suggestive way, and it was very fun. And my parents came to see it. And I think my dad was very embarrassed, and my mom was like slapping him, But yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you. I did not expect that answer. I'm not quite sure where to take it from there.
I know.
Except to maybe ask, like, what kind of quiche was it? Was this like onion,
God.
mushroom, leek?
Well,
something?
Unfortunately, when we were rehearsing, we all had like a quiche making party, and we were like, oh, well, let's put all these yummy ingredients in there, what we would want, like garlic and, herbs and spices. And then when it came down to it, that was pretty disgusting to get all over your face and have that taste in your mouth. So then we changed to Jiffy cake, and that was our quiche from moving forward, like for the performances.
Fantastic. So what do you feel like you took with you from your time as an actress moving forward? Kind of what skills and knowledge do you feel like you took with you to the next steps, which we'll get into in a second.
Yeah.
But what are you still carrying with you from that period in your life?
Definitely a great sense of empathy and communication. I think those are two of the best things that you can take away from theater, is how to connect with people and how to understand them, to see beyond yourself and put yourself in their shoes. And then also the communication. Acting, theater, it's all about the communication that happens between two people, and communicating is incredibly difficult, and everyone struggles with it. But I think it's applicable to everything that we do in our lives, professionally and personally. So those are things that I've tried to take with me in everything that I do. And, I'm always trying to improve upon those things too.
And why did you leave that part of your life behind? Kind of why did you stop being an actress and search for something else? Do you remember?
I needed that money, honey. Oh, here's my dog. Theater, unfortunately, is not a stable career. And I respect the hell out of anyone who does it full time. And I have friends who do it and they have 7 jobs, but it just wasn't what I wanted for myself. It wasn't the lifestyle that I wanted. And also I wanted something where I felt like I was contributing to the greater good. And I felt like I was part of a team, and there's a lot of rejection that's involved. There's a lot of uncertainty. And so, we'll talk about this, but my first role in Cabbage was customer service. And even doing that, I felt I gained so much confidence from that role, just because I felt like I was contributing to something and I was good at something. So.
Yeah. When you talk about theater and you talk about being an actress and you discuss things like communication and empathy, it makes me wonder, and I knew this would happen, whether I was maybe a little mistaken or inaccurate when I named this episode Reinventing Yourself. If the most important things about acting are communication and empathy, which is probably true for the research realm as well, to a great extent.
Yeah.
Do you actually feel like you reinvented yourself to enter the research realm eventually, or not? Is the title of this episode wrong to a certain extent?
No, I don't think so. That's an interesting take that you have on that. How I took Reinventing Yourself is always looking for the thing that is going to make you the happiest, the thing that is going to make you contribute to your own life and to other people's lives in the most positive way. So I think reinventing yourself is like for me, I really need a challenge in order to succeed. I like going after something and sticking with it. And typically when I get bored with something, that's when I want to move on, because I feel like I'm no longer of service to that thing anymore. So yeah, I think that I've always gone through everything that I've done kind of without too much thought, which doesn't sound great. But what I mean by that is, like, I don't think about it too much. I just go, oh, I think this is going to make me happy. I think that this is, I'm going to be really good at this. So I'm just going to go after it and we'll see what happens. So.
Are there still, I think it's fair to say that while many of us are kind of self-isolating in our homes, it's a difficult situation for many of us. I think it's fair to say it's a time of reflection, and maybe some people watching or who will be watching later on are also reflecting on their professional lives, their careers, and wanting to reinvent themselves.
Yeah.
You're kind of mentioning how you go for it and you strive to find that happiness. But how did you actually go about it? Maybe for those who don't know, Cabbage is a tech company, right? Is that fair?
Yeah.
A fintech company. We're both in fintech these days.
Yeah.
So how do you do it? How do you move from being an actress to finding your happiness at a tech company, a fintech company?
Yeah. Well, I have to admit, it was a hard transition at first, especially in the very beginning. There's a lot of feelings of failure that I went through, feeling like transitioning out of theater, feeling like, I don't know, that I somehow didn't work hard enough, or I wasn't good enough, but that's just confidence, right? That's just the evil guy on your shoulder saying, you're not good enough and you deserve this. But I think through my work, I mean, really, it was just getting in there and like being a part of team. And I have to say, like, I built so much confidence. I can't tell you how valuable that was for me. And fortunately, at the time, Cabbage was at a place where they still are very invested in helping their team members and employees grow personally and professionally. But especially at that time, I was really able to tackle things as opportunities came about, and they let me, whether or not I had done that before, whether or not I necessarily really knew what I was doing. I think I built up a rapport for myself of being known as like a very hard worker, and I'm going to figure it out no matter what. So, but to go back to something that you were saying earlier about how do you do that, I have to admit, like this time in the last couple of weeks, it has been one of incredible self-reflection, and probably like I do quite a bit of self-reflection, but not so concentrated like this. And in thinking about what am I going to do next? Where am I going to go? What does my future hold? I started thinking about, well, what does everything that you've done so far that's made you happy and fulfilled and feel passionate, what do all those things have in common? Because they all look very different. But what I realize is all those things have a thread of human connection and helping someone and service. And so that's what, like, I don't really know what my future holds. No one really knows what our future holds when this whole thing is over. But I think for me, I've tried to focus on that so that even if I decide to go in a different direction or something, I know exactly what my core values are as far as that goes. If that makes sense.
It does. It does. And I think, for those who haven't, stopped by your LinkedIn or looked at your resume, you actually, is it fair to say you reinvented yourself several times, even just within Cabbage?
Yeah. I think I've had 6 roles there, which I've been at the company a little over 7 years. So that's a lot. Some of those were by choice, and one time the team I was on got dissolved, and so luckily they kept me on, and I just went to a different team. But yeah, I've done customer service, partner account management, sales with existing customers, marketing, and now this research ops role. So, but every single one of them have involved interaction with customers. Every one of them have involved helping process move along. And so I think something else that I realized along the way was, I'm a really creative person and I have a theater degree, but I also have this really, like geeky side of my brain that loves process and loves organization. I'm a total list maker. And so I decided I'm really good at that too. I can have my creativity and I can have this side, and merging those two things together, I think has kind of helped me be successful in my path.
Is that what it takes to succeed in research ops?
Yeah, absolutely.
Those two sides.
Yeah, definitely. And when I started the role, I was actually brought onto the team just to be a recruiter, because Cabbage doesn't have like an established research team. So I was brought on just to recruit people, because we were starting to explore and build new products, a new suite of products, and we wanted to talk to people, obviously. But shortly after I was brought on, we brought on another girl who had a background in research. So she became our researcher. And I don't know why I air quoted she as a researcher. And I realized very, very quickly that there was much, much more to this whole shebang than just recruiting. And, we, like our researchers, To coin a phrase that Kate Towsey from the Research Ops community used, PWDRs, so people who do research. So we have a ton of PWDRs. So how do you guide these people who don't have a background in research to do the best work that they can? And that takes a lot of guidelines and templates and kind of leading the path. I'd like to think that I clear the path so that the researchers can walk down it and actually do their work. So yeah, that takes a lot of having a very detail-oriented mind. And also the creative side, the empathetic side, what I've gotten from my experience with theater is it's also a people ops role too. You want to make sure that your people are taken care of, that they feel good, that if a process isn't working for them, that, we talk about it and we can change it. And something I learned is you can't force the structure. If the structure isn't working, then you have to bend it till it works, because research ops inherently is a service role. You're designing a process, or you're designing the process. I think is even really a very technical sounding word, but you're designing a path, a map, a grid, so that researchers can do what they do best. So,
what's the theater equivalent of research ops? Because it's not actress.
No, it's stage manager. I know that exactly. And yeah, and when I was in college, so I got a general theater degree. So we dabbled in, not just acting, but all the other technical roles. And stage managing was, I loved acting, but stage managing gave me a different feeling that was just as valid. And I didn't really take stock in that and didn't really think about that until recently. And I was like, oh my God, because with stage managing, you are designing, you are setting a process for all the other elements that are happening in the show, and you're orchestrating that so that that show can happen in the way that it's supposed to. So yeah, I think that's really interesting.
And it just shows that there are more connections that we can't even imagine. And when you reflect on it, to your point, it comes back up.
Yeah.
How about the research ops field itself? Do you feel like it's been through reinventions as well? And when you look to the future of research ops and where it could be, do you see any potential reinventions coming up? I mean, no one likes to prophesize too much, but what have you seen happen recently, and where do you think research ops is going? It's an incredible field, growing community. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. I think that the best thing that has happened for research ops is people talking about it and people getting to know about what it is. I think it's very easy to say, okay, research ops person needs to be in charge of participant recruitment, guidelines and templates, governance, asset management, PPI, all those things. And yes, a research ops person does need to be in charge of all that. However, that is a lot of things to do, and one person cannot do all those things. And so I think that research ops is in the midst of reinventing itself just through communication. You don't know what you don't know. And we do know that researchers have been doing these things forever. But they've been doing them themselves. And so I think it's important to educate and to let people know what the boundaries are and how to really plan for future success. So I think it's very much in the midst, like I said, of reinventing itself. I don't think it's quite done a turnaround yet from what I've seen.
Yeah. We have two lovely questions from our audience. Thank you.
Oh.
Let's start with K-Popsicle here. Hi, K-Popsicle.
Hi, K-Popsicle.
So, hi, Annie. I'm currently transitioning into UX research from a different field. I wanted to know your advice for how you go about framing your previous experience to UX research in job hunting. I mean, you talked about having the confidence to do this, striving to find your happiness, but there's also hiring managers out there who are expecting to see one thing and maybe they're seeing something quite different, that kind of violates a lot of their expectations. How do you frame that experience in a way that makes sense to those managers? It's a great question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, first of all, it's understanding what being a UX researcher requires. And if it's having certain technical skills, then what other parts of your life or what other parts of your personal life or professional life can show those skills? Let's see. For example, like I was in marketing before, and I was in charge of doing our NPS or Net Promoter Score. And there's a lot of project management that goes into that. So when I was building up research ops, I used that experience, even though, what I'm doing is not NPS, it's still project management. There's a bridge there. And so I think finding the bridges for what's required in the role compared to your past experience, I think that's probably the best thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. I would add maybe a couple of things. I mean, the first is that it is incredibly challenging today to get a position without someone from within the company referring you, and not even just referring you, but I would even say advocating for you actively. That's just the way things are these days. One of the advantages there is that if this person knows you and they know what you've been up to and they know what you can do, regardless of what your previous titles were, regardless of what exactly your profession was before getting into UX research, if they can vouch for you, if they can put in a good word, that does make a lot of difference for hiring managers. And I think that's important to remember. Networking is important, referrals are important, and so forth. So there's no getting around that. And then the second thing is, as a hiring manager myself, I focus a lot more on figuring out how well you could, fit into the team and what we're up to and what we're thinking about, rather than your exact past experiences. And the thing I always tell everyone who's willing to listen is that where I put the bar for myself as an interviewer and an interviewee is that it should feel almost as if you are already on the team. You should do your research so well about the product and the company and the competition and the trends and the news and your interviewers and everything else that when you come in, there's this sense of familiarity. A bit like, you tell me, I know nothing about this, a bit like how an actress might internalize a persona, a character so well that you can no longer really differentiate between who that actress is as a person outside of the film or theater and the character itself.
Absolutely.
That's what, right? I mean, that's what great actresses do.
Absolutely. And great actors, they do their research. If it's based on a real person, they interview or they look up, they read every autobiography they can. They do as much research, find out as much about the inner workings, the outer workings of that person as they can. And I think that's such good advice. I very much love to establish really deep relationships when I'm working with people. And so using those connections. And I know it's not easy to always ask for help or ask for recommendations. And it's really not, networking isn't always comfortable, but those things, especially, and this relates back to the theater world too, networking is very important. It's all about who you know, because like he said, they can, spread the good word for you.
Yeah. So thanks again, K-Popsicle. And if you want to get in touch for any advice or mentorship, I'd be more than happy to help. And I'm sure Annie will as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And we have one more question. This person has asked a question or more every single episode so far. A loyal fan of this thing. Tiana, thank you for your question. Hi, Annie. Your life experience sounds really cool. I have a more fun question. Are there any lines from plays which you may think of when you are facing a difficult situation or life choices?
Oh
What
my
are you inspired
goodness.
by?
Ooh, what am I inspired by? that is that's a really hard question. Well, gosh, I'm inspired by so much. I would say being I'll say this, being grateful for the life that you have. I think that especially in theater, you may be playing a part that is not a great person or doesn't treat people very well, or maybe has gone through really terrible experiences in life. And I think like remembering to be grateful for your own life and for what you do have is really important. I'm sorry, I can't think of any lines right now. Oh, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? Where is my Romeo? I have no
It's
idea.
been a while. It's been a while.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
Can't blame you. Well, thank you for the question,
Yes, thank
and hey, I mean, we have plenty of time now to read up on plays, and
you. Yeah.
I can revisit my Shakespeare, all of Shakespeare's plays somewhere here. So we'll do that afterwards.
Definitely.
So thank you both for your questions, and if anyone else has a question, feel free. Um, so what haven't we talked about when it comes to kind of reinventing yourself? What else should people be thinking about, especially people transitioning into UX research or UX research ops from a different field? You have a lot of experience. You've met with challenges and barriers, and you've overcome and done a great job. um, can you share a bit more about some of those barriers, those challenges, and what you did to overcome there, how you've learned and grown into this kind of role? Any particular tips for people who want to make the same sort of transition?
Yeah, I would say don't be afraid to admit that you don't know the answer. I always like to think like don't reinvent the wheel. You know, there's always going to be someone out there who's done it in some form or fashion before you. So again, be the researcher, research the researchers. Like we were talking about earlier. I think that's so important. I mean, I went into research shops and I didn't know anything about it. I just started Googling it one day and I tried to find as much information as I could. And I found the research ops community. And then I went to a conference and took a 1 day long workshop with Kate Towsey, who's the research ops person at Atlassian, and learned so much. But, I specifically sought out those opportunities and sought out that knowledge. Also, I think like collaboration is super important. It's not, especially research ops, is not, it's all about me and what I want to do kind of role. It's absolutely not. Like I said, you're designing, you're servicing for other people. So finding out what are your challenges, what is one tool or one thing that you wish you had available to you that you don't, and then I'm not an artist, but like mapping it out. Like I find a lot of value in writing things out, not keeping it in your head, because when things are in your head, they tend to just swirl and swirl. But actually writing things out so that you can make a path and go, oh, that works or that doesn't work, and then reiterating. I think that's probably the third thing is reiterating on what you've done constantly, because it's never gonna. And I struggle with this, I struggle with the fear of not being perfect. And I think the first time has to be the way that we're going to do it. But what I've learned is like you waste so much time. So just putting something down and then getting feedback on it and then building upon that and then getting feedback and then building upon that. I think that is the way to success.
I have to ask one question. Maybe we can end with this. We could talk for hours more, but let's keep it at a reasonable time. If you had, or if you have in the future, the financial means to essentially retire, would you go back to acting? Would you go back to that time in your life, or are you past that?
Oh gosh. I would love to say that I would, but I don't think I would actually. I think I have learned that I can get what I need in different ways. And so the longer I've lived, the more that the more it's like, the more important it has been for me to really make an impact in people's lives. And so I'm very interested in like nonprofit work, counseling. I have a therapist. I very highly believe in therapy, and the difference that woman has made in my life in the past year and a half has been incredible. And so to be able to have that kind of impact, even on a really small scale, I think is something that I strive for and something that I find more valuable than anything in the entire world.
Awesome. We have another question. So
Yeah.
before we end, let's end with that. So thank you, Vinod, for another question. Annie, I was wondering if you could explain the similarities and differences between customer success or customer support and UX, since you've experienced those two roles.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. Well, when we say UX, do we mean UX research or research ops?
I mean,
research
take your pick. Or
I don't have experience with UX research, so I would say, I've done so at Cabbage. I do all the participant recruiting, and there are a ton of similarities in that. Being respectful and understanding of people is something that should influence every job that you have, quite frankly, but especially when it's with a customer base or you're asking something of someone. So, being prompt in responses and being respectful of their time and giving them a chance to opt out of things. If they say no, taking that at face value. I also think like follow-up is incredibly important. And so just like if a customer called in and they had an issue and you put in a ticket to resolve it, you would follow up with them to let them know what the status of that was as soon as possible. It's the same with UX research. If you're recruiting someone for participation, you will follow up with them not only before the interview, but after the interview. Once you send their incentive or whatever they're getting, I always send a follow-up email just thanking them for their time and for being a small business owner, and how amazed we are by them, and we wouldn't exist if it weren't for them. Just showing gratitude, I think, is huge.
Yeah. Well, listen, Annie, thank you so much for a really fun conversation.
Thank you.
So glad we met. If people want to reach out to you, we'll add your information in the show notes. But for now, is there any particular way you prefer to communicate, or things you'd love to talk about or want to connect for?
I am happy to share my experience. I'm also happy to just go back and forth and talk with people. I'm about research ops or your experience with research ops. I'm still learning, just like we all are. This is an emerging practice. So, I'd love to bounce things off of people and have them bounce things off of me. I mean, we can always learn from each other.
Awesome. So anyway, huge gratitude for you to coming on today.
Yeah, me too.
And again, if you want to chat, or if you need any advice, including K-Popsicle, please email me at noamseg@gmail.com, or my DMs are open at noamseg on the Twitter. Let's just end there.
Yeah, sounds good. Oh, here's my doggy. If everyone wants to see, this is Mabel. She's the best. I know.
How old is she?
She is, I'm not sure, she's a rescue, so she's somewhere between 7.5 and 8, I think. But she basically just wants to snuggle and hug all the time, which I am fine with.
Seems like a good thing to have right now.
Yeah, especially. Yeah, because I don't know where my Romeo is, so this is my
Romeo. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you on Wednesday for another conversation. Announcement coming soon, and have a nice week and a nice evening.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye for now. Good night.